I've been really interested in the nature of truth because it's something that we argue about so much and take offense at and fight wars over, and I find myself wondering whether there aren't many different kinds of truth. I've been wondering this for a while. Then, a little while ago, a few nights ago, I was awake in the middle of the night. And something really became clear to me. It was as a result of watching 3 videos, one after another. I really was wide awake, and I don't very often do that. But I think it was the combined effect of these different videos, one after another, that kind of lit something up in my mind, in my brain. It helped me to see something clearly. I really like it when concepts take shape, and I know that I've got something here. Well, I'm going to talk about this, explain to you, describe these videos, and explain a little about how they affected me. Now, the first video was by Bart Ehrman. He's a renowned biblical scholar. His textual criticism is his field. And he is just hardcore, steadfast, sticking to the letter. What does every word mean? He knows his Greek and his Hebrew and his Latin. This is his life's work. And he, at this point, has a clear understanding, and he can back it up pretty thoroughly on the message of the historical Jesus. In this particular video, he was contrasting what Jesus actually spoke and preached with the message that we hear from fundamentalists nowadays. And he doesn't trash anybody or attack anybody, but he was pointing out that there was quite a difference. And what makes this really interesting for me is the fact that he is an atheist. He began as a Bible-carrying, born-again Christian, and now he's an atheist. But this is his love, is the Bible, and he models his life on the message of Jesus, which is to love your neighbor as yourself. This makes him a fascinating and worthwhile person to listen to, and many, many, many people do. This sense of knowing exactly what the words of the Bible mean and what it is most likely, but they can be fairly certain that Jesus said, because of such strict attention, academic, scholarly research that's been going on for, well over 100 years, probably a couple hundred years, ongoing, so thorough. It's grounded in this very particular and precise academic scholarship. I like this framework, that groundwork, that approach, that it's very intellectual, very academic, and it's a good thing, good framework to hang your beliefs on and your way of life. It gives you confidence. Now, the second video was also by a very knowledgeable lecturer, John Hamer. And he is, as a minister as well, he has a background in medieval studies, I believe, and gives these lectures on wonderful lectures on history, philosophy, religion, from the Centre Place in Toronto. This particular lecture was on the first Christian theologian, whose name was Origen, in the late 2nd century AD. It's a name I've heard quite a lot because I am really interested in early Christianity, but haven't actually read any of his writings, but enough to know that he was somewhat controversial and that he was in the forefront of developing a theology about Jesus. And he drew on the philosophies of the time, but carried everything to a whole different level because of his brilliance, the way his mind worked, the way he could come up with a completely new and coherent theology. And I heard enough that I know I want to read some Origen to understand. I'm hoping that I would be able to grasp it, because it sounds like he was, a genius. I've always been drawn to philosophy and the world that we create with our mind and how we perceive with our mind and with our thoughts, and that a freedom to think what we want to think and to have that capacity to expand and evolve and develop is our most precious and most enjoyable and fun ability that we have as humans. And I can see that. I felt that when I was listening to this lecture on Origen, that he must have just loved to think. My final video, middle of the night video, was Alan Watts, also a philosopher. He was delivering a eulogy of sorts to Carl Jung, whom he had met several times, and he had all his books behind him on the bookshelf, and he read a passage of Carl Jung's. The substance of this was how we find peace within ourselves, the importance of integrating those warring aspects of ourselves, because if we don't, we project them out, into the world, we externalize them, wreak havoc. And of course, Carl Jung was still, alive in the 60s. He passed away in the 60s, and so he'd seen the ravages caused by the Second World War, and where people really were starting, we're thinking some people are just evil. There was this dualistic sense of the world and humanity. Some people are good, some people are evil. You got to drive out the evil people. There was that, especially, you can imagine, after the Second World War, and with the trials, the Nuremberg trials. Carl Jung's response to this was that was very personal, that we each have a shadow self, and that our work is to understand and integrate with that aspect of ourselves that we would rather push away. And this has been a feature of our human endeavors and knowledge and understanding right back through time immemorial. The Greeks had a word for it, psychomachia, meaning war within yourselves. And who isn't familiar with that, where you really want to be a good person, but it seems like there's parts of yourself that are actively trying to derail that process and get you in trouble. And why do we think about some parts of ourselves as good and some parts of ourselves as bad? So this was what Carl Jung spent his whole lifetime kind of reconciling and bringing about that union, that integration, that in his mind, that was the truth that humanity required at this point. That was a perfect way to end my middle of the night symposium on truth, with the understanding that truth is something that we can feel. I have a feeling when something's true for me, it feels true throughout. It feels wonderful in my head, and my mind has a sense of lightness. I feel this excitement, this exhilaration, the beauty, the appreciation of the beauty. And then there's the feeling of that would be the sort of philosophical truth. And then there's the feeling of the truth, like an internal truth, where I know, oh, I am all right. Like everything is all right. We are here. We can all come together. We can experience that love. We can love ourselves, love our neighbor. It's Jesus' message. And then there is also that enjoyment of piecing things together bit by bit through the research. We love to go back and find out what really happened. How much can we really know? We can know a lot. We can learn a lot. This is fun. This is all part of our ongoing, discovery and exploration of truth. And the wonderful thing is that we each get to find out for ourselves.